You know how some things just subtly shape everything around us, even when we don't consciously notice them? That's exactly what we're diving into today. Social dynamics. They're absolutely everywhere, influencing every interaction from the quiet hum of family dinners to the high-energy buzz of your workplace team. They shape our relationships and even our own sense of who we are. Our mission today is to take a deep dive into what social dynamics truly are, how groups grow, evolve, and sometimes even, well, regress. We'll look at the different intellectual lenses through which we can understand these complex interactions. And perhaps most practically, we'll explore how you can develop skills to navigate them more effectively in your daily life.
And to help us untangle these fascinating processes, we've pulled from a diverse stack of sources. We've got everything from detailed academic presentations on group development to policy research, even hands-on guides on communication. At a high level, social dynamics is all about how individual behaviors within a group influence and are influenced by that group. It's really about a group's ability to react to both internal shifts and external changes.
Okay, let's unpack this. At its very core, what is social dynamics? What's a fundamental definition we should be working with here?
Think about it this way. Social dynamics is essentially how groups behave because of the way individuals within them interact.
Right.
It's also the study of that very relationship, how individual actions influence the whole group, and how the group, in turn, influences us. Our sources also bring in Prem Sharma's perspective, which really hones in on the nuts and bolts. It's about the observable attitudes and behaviors of a group. You know, how it gets started, how it changes over time, and even how it boosts or drains the morale of its members.
So the core assumption here seems to be this constant mutual influence.
Exactly.
But doesn't that raise a fascinating question about individual agency? Are we just products of these dynamics, or is there still room for us to really shape them?
That's a fantastic point, and it's a tension right at the heart of understanding social dynamics. While influence is indeed constant, our sources emphasize that individual agency absolutely exists, especially as we learn to navigate these interactions. And when we talk about groups, we're talking about two or more people interacting and sharing an identity. Pretty straightforward definition there. It's helpful, though, to distinguish between primary groupings, which are those strong connections with a deep sense of belonging, like your family.
Right, the really close ties.
Exactly. And then secondary groupings, which are usually larger, more transient, and involve weaker relationships. Think coworkers or classmates.
Okay, that makes sense. So what does all this mean for you, our listener? Why is understanding social dynamics so important beyond just, intellectual curiosity?
Well, it's vital because this understanding is crucial for everything from approaching complex social problems to simply enhancing your everyday communication, and ultimately promoting overall communal well-being. It's knowledge you can apply pretty broadly.
One of the most fascinating takeaways for me from these sources is just how dynamic groups truly are. They're certainly not static.
Not at all.
The research highlights that groups undergo distinct developmental phases. They definitely possess the capacity for growth and development,
Yeah.
but interestingly, they also have the ability to regress and resist working effectively. That part's intriguing.
That's right. These developmental phases are typically broken down into four main stages, outlining a full group life cycle: the pre-group phase, the initial phase, the working phase, and finally, the termination phase.
Let's trace that journey then, starting with the pre-group phase. This sounds like all the groundwork, the preparation even before the group officially forms.
Precisely. It involves things like choosing the leader, deciding on the group's goal, getting any necessary administrative permission.
Practical stuff.
Yeah, the practical setup. And then carefully selecting members. That selection isn't random. It's often based on things like shared challenges, motivation levels, age, gender, cultural factors. It even includes screening interviews sometimes to ensure a good fit.
Then we step into the initial phase. I think of this as the settling in period, maybe.
That's a good way to put it. It's often characterized by anxiety about being accepted by the group, and there's this natural process of setting norms and about various roles. People are figuring things out.
Testing the waters.
Exactly. And researchers have refined this settling in phase even further, breaking it down into three crucial substages. First, you have the orientation stage. This is where the leader really helps everyone establish a kind of group contract, things like shared goals, confidentiality, meeting times, communication rules.
Setting the ground rules.
Right. The big aim here is to foster a sense of belonging. During this time, everyone's kind of evaluating each other, the group as a whole, and maybe even the leader. Next comes the conflict stage. This is where issues related to control, power, and authority become primary. It can get a bit tense.
I can imagine.
Yeah, this is also often where subgroups usually form, and sometimes hostility may be expressed. The leader's role here is absolutely crucial. They need to allow for the expression of feelings, both negative and positive, and help the group understand the underlying causes of the conflict. The powerful insight here, though, is that through discussion, open conflicts may actually increase a group's maturity and usefulness. It's not always bad.
So conflict can actually be productive.
It can be if handled well. Finally, within this initial phase, there's the cohesive stage. Once conflicts start to get resolved, group members feel strong attraction towards one another. There's a newfound comfort. Members feel free to give self-disclosing information and share more intimate concerns. At this point, the group begins to see task achievements as a reality. They start to gel.
Okay, so after all that initial navigating, orientation, conflict, cohesion, we enter the working phase. This sounds like where the real work gets done.
Exactly. This is when the group becomes a team. All that energy from the earlier stages now directs its energy mainly towards completing its task. The group becomes more responsible and stable. You'll notice the leader's activities actually reduce somewhat as their main focus shifts to simply keeping the group goal-directed.
They step back a bit.
Yeah, ideally. By the end of this phase, members typically gain a sense of their own productivity and accomplishment. Things are clicking.
And finally, there's the termination phase, wrapping things up. Our sources describe this as a highly individual process that can be, well, painful, but with a feeling of accomplishment if the group has been successful.
Right. It's about closure. Leadership behavior during this phase includes encouraging an evaluation of the group and its terminating members, maybe recalling important events, and definitely encouraging members to give feedback. It's about processing the end of the group experience healthily.
So knowing these stages apply to everything from a small project team to perhaps even, I don't know, a large community organization, what stands out to you about this full life cycle? What's the big takeaway?
You know, what really hits home for me is how universally these patterns seem to apply. It tells us that what often looks like chaos in group settings, it frequently has a predictable rhythm.
There's a structure underneath.
Exactly. It's almost like groups have their own developmental blueprint. And to truly understand why those rhythms exist, that's where we need to look beyond just one field. We really need to embrace a multidisciplinary approach, bridging psychology and sociology.
Right.
Psychology tends to concentrate on individual cognition and emotions, what's happening inside each person's head, while sociology studies more general social structures and patterns, the bigger picture of how groups operate in society. Both are, well, essential for a complete understanding.
So we've got these two powerful laws. Let's look at some foundational theories from each that help us make sense of all this group behavior. What does sociology offer?
From a sociological perspective, several theories really illuminate group behavior. There's social exchange theory, which suggests that people basically search to maximize rewards while reducing expenses.
Like a cost-benefit analysis.
Exactly, a cost-benefit analysis that kind of underlies human relationships. Think about it. Every time you decide whether to help a friend move, you're doing an unconscious calculation, right? Is the reward worth the cost?
Makes sense.
Then there's symbolic interactionism. This emphasizes shared meanings and communication, and how each person creates reality using language and symbols. It's about how we constantly define and redefine our social world through our interactions.
So meaning isn't fixed.
According to this theory, no, it's negotiated. And finally, conflict theory highlights inequality and power struggles. It contends that conflict between rival groups frequently leads to social transformation. This theory essentially views society as a constant competition for resources and power.
That's a very different angle. Fascinating how these theories give us different ways to decode the same social dance. Now, switching over to the psychological perspective, what theories help us there?
From psychology, we have theories like social learning theory, which posits that people pick up behaviors by watching and copying others, often influenced by rewards and penalties. You know, why role models are so powerful.
Learning by example.
Precisely. There's also attribution theory, which studies how individuals view and attribute causes to the actions of others. Why did someone do that?
The why question.
Right. And this process can often lead to quick judgments or, frankly, misjudgments about why someone acted a certain way. We jump to conclusions. And, of course, the well-known concepts of groupthink and conformity. These explain how group pressures could cause people to agree with majority viewpoints, occasionally at the price of critical thinking.
That powerful urge to fit in.
Exactly, even when it means silencing your own doubts or better judgment.
So the big question becomes, how do these theoretical understandings translate into practical applications? In the real world, I mean.
Yeah, that's key.
We're talking about everything from crafting better leadership techniques in companies to improving student involvement in classrooms, or maybe even enhancing mental health treatments in medicine.
Absolutely. The applications are really broad once you start looking for them.
And that leads us perfectly from theory to practice, specifically to a truly fascinating concept our sources dig into: the power of being a social chameleon.
Right, the social chameleon. Basically, this is someone who can adapt their behavior and communication style to fit different social contexts. It's about being aware of various social roles, expectations, norms, and then skillfully adjusting yourself accordingly. It's not about being fake, necessarily.
More like being fluid.
Yeah, fluid is a good word, adaptable.
And the benefits are genuinely compelling, aren't they? We're talking about building strong relationships, enhancing communication skills, developing empathy and understanding, and increasing self-confidence. It sounds like it's about connecting more effectively.
That's the core idea. And to cultivate this adaptability, several skills are essential. First, self-awareness and self-reflection are crucial. Recognizing your own strengths and weaknesses and being attuned to social cues from others. Second, flexibility and adaptability. This means being open to change and adjusting your communication style, your body language, your overall behavior based on the situation you're in. And third, empathy and perspective taking. This involves truly trying to understand others' emotions and perspectives so you can respond in a way that resonates with them, that lands well.
Okay, so for you, the listener, how do you actually put this into practice? Our sources give us some concrete strategies. Active listening seems key.
Huge. Paying attention not just to the words, but to verbal and nonverbal cues, and asking clarifying questions. It's about making someone feel truly heard.
Then there's observing and mirroring. What does that involve?
It means noticing social norms and behaviors, like how people greet each other or discuss sensitive topics in a new group, and subtly mirroring things like body language and tone to build rapport.
Ah, to create connection.
Right. Think about how much more comfortable a new team member feels when they subtly pick up on the existing team's communication style, maybe their pace or humor.
That makes sense. And finally, practicing assertiveness. This seems important too.
Vital. It's about expressing your thoughts and feelings respectfully and maintaining healthy boundaries. It's knowing how to say no or voice a different opinion without causing unnecessary conflict or just shutting down. It's also important, though, to acknowledge that there are challenges with this whole chameleon approach.
Like what?
Well, concerns like authenticity concerns, balancing adaptation with staying true to yourself are very real. You want to be flexible, not feel like you've lost yourself.
All right, where's the line?
Exactly. Also, managing social anxiety can be a factor. Recognizing anxious thoughts and perhaps seeking support can help navigate these situations more effectively. It's a skill that definitely improves with practice and, frankly, self-compassion.
So we've journeyed through the core definitions of social dynamics, explored that fascinating life cycle that groups undergo.
From pre-group to termination.
Right, we've examined the theoretical lenses of psychology and sociology that help us understand these interactions, and even delved into the practical skills of becoming a bit of a social chameleon.
Ultimately, the core value remains. Understanding social dynamics is just crucial for effective communication, building strong relationships, approaching social problems, and just promoting communal well-being in pretty much all aspects of our lives. It's about truly understanding the dance of human interaction.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. Given that society is constantly changing, right? Driven by digital contacts, cultural changes, all these new social difficulties. How might the stages of group development described here, or even this concept of being a social chameleon, how might they continue to evolve in an increasingly digital and interconnected world?
That's a great question.
What new forms might our social dynamics take as our interactions shift more and more online? And what new skills might we need to adapt? Something to think about.